People see teachers standing in front of a classroom and think we simply teach for a few hours and go home. But what they don't see is everything happening behind the scenes. What happens when you prepare a lesson for hours, walk into your classroom and your students are not paying attention? What happens when you have hundreds of assignments waiting to be marked and another lesson to prepare and meetings to attend and still have responsibilities at home? And what happens when you have students who learn at completely different speeds, but you still have to make sure everyone understands the lesson? These are some of the everyday challenges teachers face, and sometimes we don't talk about them enough. So in today's part 1, I'm going to create a series type videos and then post this. I'm going to share the major challenges teachers face almost every day. Hello everyone and welcome back to my personal space. If you're new here, welcome. On this channel, I share my experience, lessons, financial tips, thoughts about teaching, education, personal growth, and everyday life. And teaching is one of those professions that can be extremely rewarding, but at the same time, it can also be very challenging. Every morning, teachers walk into their classroom with a plan. We have a lesson objective. We have activities prepared. We know what we want our students to learn. But once that classroom door opens, things don't always go according to plan, and most of the time we improvise to do things in the classroom. People don't know about that. What we do is totally different. And that's okay, because teaching isn't just about delivering information. It's about working with people, and people are unpredictable, children especially. So today, let's talk about honesty, about 3 challenges that teachers deal with on a regular basis. Challenge number 1, classroom management. The first major challenge is classroom management. And if you've been teaching for a while, you already know how important this is. You can have the best lesson plan. You can have beautiful PowerPoint slides. You can prepare activities. You can spend hours researching your topic. But if you can't manage the classroom, delivering that lesson becomes very difficult. Let's imagine this. You walk into your classroom, you greet your students, you write the topic on the board, you start explaining the lesson. And suddenly, you hear students talking at the back. You stop, you look at them, they become quiet. You continue teaching, a few minutes later, they are talking again. Then another student wants to leave the classroom. Someone forget their book, someone is asking a friend for a pen, someone is distracted, and suddenly you're spending more time managing the classroom than actually teaching. Does this sound familiar? The truth is, classroom management requires a lot of patience. A lot, really. Every student is different. Some students are naturally quiet. Some are very active. Some love participating. Some don't want to answer questions. Some students will follow instructions immediately. Others need to be reminded several times. Trust me on that. And as teachers, we have to manage all these personalities in one classroom. That's not easy. And classroom management isn't simply about keeping students quiet. It's about creating an environment where students can actually learn. Students need to know their expectations. They need to understand boundaries. They need to understand respect. And teachers need to be consistent. One of the biggest mistakes we can make as teachers is expecting students to automatically know what we expect from them. Sometimes we need to teach them those expectations. For example, how do we enter the classroom? How do we ask questions? How do we work in groups? How do we treat our classmates? How do we handle disagreements? These things may seem simple, but they can make a huge difference in the classroom. Another important thing is building relationship with students. Students are more likely to respect a teacher when they know the teacher genuinely cares about them. That doesn't mean we have to become their best friend. It means showing respect, listening to them, being fair, and understanding that every student has a story. And let's be honest, there will still be difficult days. There will be days when the class is noisy. There will be days when your lesson doesn't go as planned. There will be days when you leave the classroom completely exhausted, but don't beat yourself up. Classroom management is something teachers continue learning throughout their careers. What works for one class may not work for another, and that's why we have to keep adapting. Challenge number 2, workload and time pressure. The second major challenge is workload and time pressure. Trust me on that. This is something I believe many people outside the teaching profession don't fully understand. Teaching doesn't end when the school bell rings. In fact, sometimes that's when another part of the work begins. Think about everything a teacher may have to do. Lesson planning, preparing teaching materials, marking assignments, marking tests, recording grades, preparing reports, attending meetings, and when marking assignments and tests, preparing those before marking. And marking of papers would be like in a class we have 50, 60 students in a class, and that's a lot to do. Preparing practical activities, organizing classroom activities, supporting students, and sometimes taking on additional responsibilities at school, and then you go home. You might think, now I can finally rest, but there's still work waiting for you. Trust me. Maybe you have tomorrow's lesson to prepare. Maybe there are assignments that need to be marked. Maybe you need to prepare a test. Maybe you need to respond to something from school. And while you're doing all this, life at home doesn't stop. Trust me. You may have children. You may have a family. You need to cook, you may need to clean, you may have other responsibilities, so suddenly you're trying to balance your professional responsibilities with your personal responsibilities. And sometimes they simply aren't enough hours in the day. This is one reason why teachers can experience burnout. We constantly feel like there is something else that needs to be done. And sometimes we feel guilty when we rest. We think, I should be marking. I should be preparing tomorrow's lesson. I should be doing something productive. But here's something teachers need to remember. Rest is productive too. You cannot constantly give your energy to everyone else without taking time to recharge yourself. If you are exhausted, it's harder to teach effectively. It's harder to think clearly. it's harder to be patient, and it's harder to enjoy your work. So sometimes we need to prioritize ourselves. Ask yourself, what absolutely needs to be done today? What can wait until tomorrow? What can be simplified? What can I reuse? What can I prepare in advance? We don't always have to make everything perfect. Sometimes good enough is enough. For example, if you're teaching a topic you've taught before, you don't necessarily have to create everything from scratch. You can improve a previous lesson, use activities that work, change examples when necessary, and save resources that you use again. Working smarter can help reduce some of the pressure. And most importantly, don't forget that you are a human and human being. Before you are a teacher, you have a life outside the classroom. You deserve time with your family. You deserve time to rest. You deserve time to do things you enjoy. Teaching is important, but your well-being is important too. And challenge number 3, different students, different learning needs. The third challenge is dealing with students who have different learning needs and abilities. This is one of the biggest challenges in any classroom. Imagine having a classroom with 50 students. You explain a topic once. 5 students understand immediately. Another 10 understand after you give an example. Another group needs more explanation, and there are students who are still looking at you wondering, what are we talking about? And now you're thinking, how do I make sure everyone understands? This is where teaching becomes challenging. Students don't all learn at the same speed. They don't have all the same background. They don't have the same level of confidence. They don't all have the same resources at home, and they don't all learn in the same way. Some students learn better through demonstrations, some learn through reading, some learn by doing practical activities, some need to see examples, some need to discuss ideas with their classmates, and some simply need more time. As teachers, we have to recognize these differences. Sometimes we have to explain the same concept in several different ways. For example, you might explain something verbally, then you draw it on the board, then you give a real life example, then you allow students to practice it. Okay, and finally you ask questions to see whether they understood. This takes time, but it's necessary. One of the most rewarding things about teaching is seeing a student finally understand something they struggle with. Maybe they could answer the question yesterday, but today they raised their hand. Maybe they couldn't answer the question yesterday, but today they raised their hand. They give the correct answer, and you can see the moment when they realize, oh, I understand it now. Those moments make teaching worthwhile. Trust me. But we also need to remember that students' academic performance can be affected by things happening outside the classroom. A student may be tired. A student may not have eaten breakfast. A student may have problems at home. A student may be afraid of making mistakes. A student may simply lack confidence. So sometimes what looks like laziness may actually be something else. This is why patience is more important. Of course, students still need accountability. We still need expectation, but we also need understanding. As teachers, we are not only teaching the subject, we're helping young people develop confidence, discipline, responsibility, and life skills. And that takes time. So those are 3 everyday challenges I wanted to talk about in this video. And this is just part 1. I'm going to create series of these. Okay, number 1, classroom management. Number 2, workload and time pressure. And number 3, different learning needs and how we can go about helping the students within these areas. How we can deal with that in our everyday teaching life. If you're a teacher, what is the biggest challenge you face every day? Is it classroom management? Is it workload and lack of time? Or is it dealing with different student learning needs? Let me know in the comments because I would love to hear your experience. And if you're enjoying this teacher series, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss part 2. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, keep teaching, keep learning, keep improving. Keep teaching, keep learning, keep improving. And don't forget to take care of yourself too. I'll see you in our next video.